In this episode, we show off the new decorative changes to our mechanism room and finally set up the SPS, finishing the advanced mechanism progression line. We also clean up the general area by removing all of our waste barrels. Hi there. In between episodes, I did a little bit of improvements around the base, not too much. In this room, I just added some garden lights, which I still don't know how I feel about them. They're a little too big. I would have loved them if they're smaller. And I changed these guys to orange. But the main things I kind of did was I added some dimension or flare to the ceilings. So they all look like that now, which I like better, but I don't love, but we're going to leave it for now. And then in here, I went ahead and let's grab a wrench from Power so we can take a look at this. I went ahead and bumped up our pattern provider one block higher and linked up these rods to the energizing orb on each side. So now we have 3 of them going. And so if we take a look at this and we do like 20 emerald blocks, you can see that it's 3 times as fast now. It can do 3 crafts at once. And that is nicer. And then we have a modular router down there that's pulling from the bottom side of these guys and pushing into the pattern provider. So I just went ahead and changed the puller upgrade or the puller module to a distribution one and then put all 3 of them. So that's that. And these rooms look like this. Ooh, I did make some changes in the mechanism room too. So first of all, before we go in there, we're met with some hazmat suits. So you can suit up before you go in here if you'd like. I might consider putting some doors here. I'll consider that, but doors are usually 2 blocks tall, I think. And so having it 3 blocks tall is weird, but then also this is a weird shape and we don't have doors anywhere else. So anyways, that idea is pending. And I went ahead and added these steel scaffolding structures around. So now it looks like there's some support built in. It looks a little bit more industrial. So I like the way that looks. And we went ahead and expanded the base out towards there. And this is as big as this room will need. So it's officially completed. I did change the lights to steel wall mounts from Immersive Engineering. And then on the bottom of them, I put in the illuminant fixtures from Simply Lights. And these can be all kinds of different colors too. So that is that. This room is complete. The only thing that's missing is for us to build our SPS chamber, the Supercritical phase shifter, which we will be doing in this episode. I did also change, I outlined everything in this warning caution tape block thing. And then I went ahead and changed this trapdoor to an elevator. So now we can use an elevator going up and down instead. I don't know, I just wanted to change that. Okay, let's get into building the SPS. I am going to inset it 1 block down into the floor. So we'll build it over there. And if we take a look, we already have some things because I went ahead and made this already just to test. And if you take a look at the SPS in JI or EMI in my case, and you press U on it, you should be able to see the building tab and with the number of ports. So you can put ports. Basically, the way this works is you input energy through these supercharged coils, and all these supercharged coils go on top of an SPS port. And you can put one of these on each side to increase it. Let's go ahead and build it actually, and then we'll talk about it. I think that'll make more sense. But I'm going to use structural glass. You can also use a reactor glass, but we'll use structural glass for now. So we'll put one of those in the middle. Okay, so the SPS is a 7x7 in kind of like a weird shape. Mechanism now has the ponder feature, so you can take a look at how you built it in here. So as you can see, it's 7 blocks across, but it's like a weird circular shape. So this is how it starts. And then you can replace these middle blocks, the middle 5, 3x5 with reactor glass or structural glass. But I'm going to keep it as the casings. And then we're going to do these sides. And we can use a building gadget to make this a little bit easier. Go 1, increase the thing. 3, 4, and 5. And then in the center 3, you want to place more structural glass. There are also, what do you call it? The templates for the copy paste tool online that you can do that, but the amount of time it takes to fuss around with that, I feel like it's easier to just build it. So fill in these corners with SPS casings, as well as in between the glass. Oops. You can tell I'm really good at this. Really good at FPS games because my aim is impeccable. And we're going to do the same thing on top. Then put 3 more on top of these guys. Fill in the center with glass. And 1 more in each of these corners. And you see those particle effects. So we have now created an SPS that will not work because it doesn't have enough imports. So inside, what is those things called? Coils. I have 6 of these coils. You need to use these coils in order to input power inside of the SPS. And each one of these SPS ports can handle 40 million FE per tick. So if you have one on each side of the machine, you can do up to 260 million FE per tick that you can input. We are going to set it up with the coils on each side. It's not necessary because obviously we don't have that much and we won't be able to keep up with the polonium for that anyways. But I do think it looks better to have it on all sides. So I'm going to set those up. And then we need a way to input polonium. So if you take a look at antimatter, that's done in the SPS, and we put in polonium and lots of power, and we get antimatter. So you can see here's the 40 million FE per tick per SPS port. So we need a port for polonium, and then we need another port to output the antimatter. And we can use a configurator to set that as an output. Okay, so this thing should be ready to go. And now you can see down here, I have a little room, and there's an elevator in the corner here that we can enter. And let me turn on my night vision so you can see a little bit better. And this is where we're going to set up the inputs and outputs and all that stuff. So we do need to give this guy power, and I'm going to use Super Factory Manager to do that. So let's grab some inventory cables. And I'm going to use these fancy inventory cables to go like that. And then in the floors, we can put these normal ones. And, you know, this kind of looks interesting this way. I don't know if it's worth it to do the top as well. Like, I think that looks kind of cool. And we're gonna facade those Or do I want to wrap it all the way to the top? We could do white. That looks kind of interesting. We could also do Luminix blocks, and Superfactory Manager had an update. And you can see that glows now. So that could be kind of cool. Let's try that for now. And then we also want to facade these guys. Okay, so we have our SPS built. Let's go over here and set up the rest of it. We do need to connect this over. So this connects to all of those ports. And then let's bring this down into the ground. And we can put our manager over here. And we will need access to applied energistics over here too. So let's grab a wireless connector. That will go down here. We need an interface. That will go over there. And then we will also need a FluxAccessor to input the power into the SPS. So let's put that guy over here as well. The reason we can't just do an induction card on the interface is because I don't think it'll be able to keep up because we can put so much power into this. So that we have set up, and I'm going to make polonium, what do you call it? Here, rather than, so we have this area over here that's creating polonium, but that is for polonium pellets. So I think I'm going to set up more to do over here. So let's grab our solar neutron activators. And I have done this already where if you look up here, you can see that it says it's a glass block, and we use camel to block it. So these actually have access to the sun. So there's a glass block that's camoed here and here, and that goes up to here as well. You can see in jade, it says it's glass. So even though it looks cool like this, it actually has direct line of sight, and those will work, which is very spiffy. And then the way you make antimatter pellets, there is nothing really we need straight antimatter for. You can put it in this thing, in the synthesizer, and you can turn like a bow into a crossbow. But I mean, none of these recipes really we need. Nothing's very useful. Maybe a respawn anchor for occultism, but we can make those, can't we? Yeah, that's so easy. Okay, so we don't need anything. But let's grab that synthesizer. Not the synthesizer. So we're just going to convert everything into antimatter pellets, and that's in the crystallizer, chemical crystallizer. Right, yeah. Okay, and that should take care of everything. And now we need a way to get our nuclear waste from our fission reactor over here. I'm going to attempt to use entangled blocks, and I think we should be able to just entangle the port directly. So I'll put this guy over here, and we're gonna go this is the waste port, right? So we'll select that guy. This is going to be the one where we put an import bus on once we can make that. But this is also connected. But we can take that one out. Anyways, let's go over here. And okay, so that's the waste port now. And hopefully we can pull from that. Let's grab our code from Super Factory Manager that I wrote. Let's see what this does. So this I am using redstone, so we can turn it on and off the same way that we're doing it with the lasers for our fusion reactor. And again, you can put, so let's take a look at this. Right now I'm inputting 5 million FE to each of those ports times 6. So that's 30 million FE per tick that we're going to be using in the SPS. And then you can use you can go up to 40 million. But if we do that, our polonium won't be able to keep up. And then we're also taking from the FluxAccessor into the Crystalizer just to power that machine. And then we take chemical from the fission waste port. And then we're going to 8,000. This was a number that I think is a good number to put in each solar neutron activator based on the burn rate of our fission reactor. So if you have a bigger one, you could bump that number up higher. But let's start to label these guys. We have the FluxAccessor over here. Fission waste. And hopefully that'll work. The energy port, here's one. And then we have these guys. Crystalizer, solar neutron activators, the output. It was this one, right? Yes. That is output. That is input. And our interface. Okay. That should be everything labeled. Now we need to connect our thing, but let's grab some greater energy cards. And our wireless connector. Okay, so let's see if we can turn this on with the lever. We do need to turn on this guy. And polonium is going in here. Perfect. Now if we turn this on, you can see that it is starting, but you see how it kind of, what do you call that? It's like pulsing. That's because the amount of polonium that's going in there is not enough to keep up. Because Super Factory Manager moves polonium every 20 ticks, and in like a single tick, this inputs all the power. So if we want to make it not do that, we can lower this. Like let's say we move this to 100,000 FE. And also let's turn this off, because this guy's using polonium too. Okay, here it is. So we have our SPS running. That's keeping up, so we can move this back up to, let's try 500,000. It's not a bad rate. I might keep it at that. So we're getting almost, we're getting 3/4 of a millibucket per tick and inputting 3 million FE per tick. You know, I might be wrong. You might be limited to only being able to do 40 million FE total, not 240 million. I haven't tested that. But this is working, and we're gonna do the same thing for this that we did with our fusion reactor. Oh, speaking of which, let's turn this on. So we can get more power. That goes in there. We kickstart that guy. So those lasers are going to go until it has enough power. And you'll see this kick on. There it is. So now our fusion reactor is also running and it's given us 80 million FE. We can turn that off. And these lasers will run out of power soon. There you go. Okay, so now we are getting antimatter and antimatter pellets. If we take a look in here, so this is going up. The rates for all the mods 10 have been changed. I'm not sure if it's done. I think it's done from the all the mods 10 mod devs versus Mechanism, because Mechanism also had a bunch of changes in 1.21, so it's a little confusing which one's which. But anyways, I wanted to put an RF Tools screen up, but I just realized we put the interface below the manager, which is where I was going to put the thing, so we might have to move this. You can see that it turned off as soon as I took the redstone off. That's because of this line. So if we don't have any redstone, it's not going to input any power into it. But let's grab a... This is on channel 3, and so is this guy. So we can put... We might be able to do that, and then put a slab. No, we can't. How about a trapdoor? No, this thing takes up the whole block. Well, I'll fix that later, but that's set up. And then let's put the screen over here. And then we put our button module in there. And we'll call it activate. That's all good. And we need to scan it. Okay, so now you see activate, and we can turn that on. And by the way, the reason why you can't see the screen is because of shaders. This is what it typically looks like. Same thing with that one over there. Unfortunately, there is nothing we can do about that. But small price to pay for a game to look prettier. Okay, so this is kind of set up, and I am going to change some things around. Looks like we can bump up the power a bit more, but you can see Super Factory Manager can't keep up with it. If you wanted to change that, we could set this to every redstone pulse do for this guy. And we grab a timer from RF Tools. Set this to 2 ticks. And it's not working because it's interfering with this. So you can see with the every tick, every 2 ticks, it's able to keep up with the 500,000. And we're getting a ton of antimatter. Look how fast that's going. So that is one way you can bypass the minimum of every 20 ticks in Super Factory Manager. You can also change the configs just to allow that. I might end up doing that. So instead of having to do this extra step, we can just make it every tick do, which I think would be better. So I might do that. But now that we have antimatter pellets, that we have 3 antimatter pellets, we can go ahead and make the radioactive cell. All right, now that we have this radioactive cell, we can use it for nuclear waste and import that into our system. And this can only have one type. So we're going to put nuclear waste in here. That will go into our system. And then we can put an import bus of the extended variety with some acceleration cards over here. And now we should be getting waste inside of our system. So waste is going to go in our system. We can remove this guy. And we can stock the waste. So rather than using the entangled block, we can stock waste inside of our interface. Like that, and then we pull it from our interface into the solar neutron activators. So let's change this up to interface. And we can break this because we don't need it anymore. Okay, so now we're using our applied energistics to move the waste over here rather than pulling directly from the waste port, which is also valid. But that means we can come over here and also do the same thing here. So let's grab 64 buckets in there as well. And then, oops, in this code, everywhere that it says waste port, we can do interface. So here we will input chemical nuclear waste from interface. Okay, let's go ahead and turn this off. Is our thing already full? Oh, this thing sucks. It can only hold 2,000. We'll have to bump up our production for that. So I'm going to wait until this is clear, because if I break it now, we'll have a radioactive leak. And once that is clear, we'll be able to safely break this port and replace it with another fission reactor casing. Okay, this is all empty, which means it's safe for us to break that without causing a leak. And now we can also get rid of these inventory cables. And you know what, guys? I am going to move these waste barrels inside of a compact machine. If you're going to break those, double, triple check to make sure they don't have any waste in them. Otherwise, you'll cause radiation. So let's go ahead and grab building gadget to fix the floor. All right, let's grab a compact machine. We will make a colossal compact machine in here. Let's grab our cables So there's one layer. We could do a second layer. Like so. And should we do 2 more layers? This is a little overkill, but we don't want to have to worry about it. Okay, so we have some layers of those things, and we're going to grab our entangled blocks, and we're going to need 4 of those. So let's just place them like so, and then we'll need a manager. And now we need to go outside and entangle all of these things that output spent nuclear waste. So we're going to select that block, go back in here, go back out, select that block. We can get rid of this last one because our code here won't have to deal with the waste anymore. And we can go ahead and input chemical nuclear waste or spent nuclear waste from PRC bottom side. And then we are going to output, let's say 500. So what this is going to do is it's going to make sure each of them get 500 first. And then if there is any extra, it'll just dump the extra into more barrels. Okay, so now we just have to label it, which might be a little tricky. Here are our PRCs, and we need to label, oops, not PRC, all of those guys as barrels. And then we go down one more, and all of those guys as barrels. Barrel, barrel, inventory cable. So we have 672 barrels. I think that'll do. Make sure this is chunk loaded. And if we go outside and turn this on for a bit, you can see that the spent nuclear waste is going and ending up in these barrels somewhere. Here's 500 in this one. We are going to take that out. And this one I might also do as a redstone thing. So let's include that as well. I'm going to highlight all of those and push them forward. If redstone's greater than 0, then do this. And we'll need another end. Same thing with HDPE, because I don't need to produce those all that frequently. So if redstone is greater than 0, then do this. And end. the power can stay like that. So now when we put this in here, it's not pulling waste into here because of it's not on. But if we put a lever on it, we can turn it on. You can see they start going. So I went ahead and moved all of my applied energistic things down to this layer, and there's inventory cables behind it touching, of course. And that means we can put our redstone receiver below, and we can close our floor here. So that is all set up. And then I did also change my configs for Super Factory Manager to allow doing less than 20 ticks for other resource types. You can get around that by just doing every redstone pulse to do and then putting a timer from RF Tools on it. But this is how I decided to do it, just so we don't have to deal with that every time. I am still going to use every 20 ticks wherever possible, but if we need to go lower than that, we can. And as you can see, this guy is producing antimatter, and we are going to need a bunch of these antimatter pellets. So I'm going to let this guy run. But if you take a look at our fission reactor, you can see that our waste is backing up. So that is where our little alarm system thing comes into play. So once our waste reaches, I think it's 75%. Critical waste level 90%. So once it reaches 90%, this will shut off, and then our waste will drain slowly. So let's go ahead and wait for that to happen, just to make sure it works. We are getting close to that 90% mark. So you can see now it's throttling. It's basically turning on and off to stay below 90%. I guess that's interesting. We know it's not going to melt down. But now that we have overhead, we can go ahead and increase our energy rate. So let's try 5 million. And we're being throttled by polonium. Because, oh, these guys can't produce fast enough. But our antimatter... I don't want to add more solar neutron activators. So it looks like about 750,000 FE per tick is the max we can keep it sustained with 2 solar neutron activators. We could always add more, but I'm gonna have to keep poking holes inside of the ceilings and do the camel thing, and I don't love doing that. Anyways, I'm going to leave you guys here for this episode. I'll let this run so we can get a bunch of antimatter pellets while we do other things. We're basically all done with mechanism now. This room is done. I'm quite happy with the way it turned out. And yeah, that's it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.